history. So that we're talking about the potential closure of the Gambia, Banjul, the U.S. embassy in Banjul. Of course, someone once told me that there are three countries that Gambians actually um, take a lot of inspiration: Senegal, Nigeria, and America. So, is it good riddance for the U.S. To close the embassy in Banjul?
No, thank you, Ibrahim. I don't think that we can say good riddance because the very fact that Gambians will definitely travel to the US or any part or a part of the world, that's a reality. And whether we have the embassy in Banjul, we have it in Dhaka or anywhere else, Gambians will definitely go and look for an American visa because that's part of international reality. So we would prefer definitely to have the embassy in Banjul, so that at least it will save the Gambians the trouble of having to travel all the way to Dhaka or anywhere else to look for a Gambian visa. We know what it means. There was a time, and even though the embassy was there, but suspended issuing visas, and Gambians had to travel to Dhaka to look for visas, and it was really, a problem for many Gambians. You can imagine Gambians, you're having to pay your fares to go to Dhaka. You go there, you don't have even, a place to stay and other things. It's so expensive. So Gambians would definitely prefer this embassy to remain in Banjul so that they can, at least if they want to travel to the US, they can apply for a US visa there. Even if we are rejected, at least it's not going to cost you much. But you can imagine somebody going all the way to Dhaka, spending maybe 2 days or 3 days there, waiting for a visa, only to be rejected. You lose some money that you paid for the visa, you lose the fare that you paid for, and then, a lot of other things. It's so costly. So we would definitely prefer the embassy to remain in Banjul.
Thank you, Honorable.
All right. Ambassador Ezabwaka C, what is your take about the potential closure of the U.S. embassy in Banjul?
Yes, like earlier on we discussed prior to the program starting, you asked about implications. I said yes, because the implications are physical, they are financial and moral. Because like Honorable just said, well, for the benefits of some people who might have just seen him today, he's the former Minister of Information of the Gambia, also and a media consultant, for people to know who he is. Okay, so the physical part of it is you will join a bus or join a boat or pay your airfare to go to Senegal. And that's tedious, okay? And the financial part of it is the bus fare will be there, the taxi fare will be there, the boat fare and the air fare and the hotel. So it's like you'll be paying for the visa plus the extra expenditures. So like I was saying, some people are saying closure. Within bilateral relations, the language, they can also say, no, we are not closing, we are scaling down. Diplomats have different ways of just making you believe that you are going to, you're really fine when they are going to pump you into hell, So, but when we talk about zoning and mapping, this particular country here, like I was saying earlier, the duty of the President of the United States of America, the duty of the President, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and France and China, the heads of state or presidents, is not to serve Gambians. Their priority is their countries. Like Honorable said, I support that part. But the thing is now, whose responsibility is to convince them? Because what I understand is that it is yet to happen. It is in the making. There have seen some denials also on the news that State Department is denying it. Some people are saying, no, it's true. But even if that is the case, it has not happened yet. Okay? So, I don't know. But there could be a way that diplomatically people can come, table it with the authorities here, explain things to them to understand the strategic location of the Gambia, the importance of the Gambia, bring back the history. Because look, we had the NASA crash landing in the Gambia. It was moved to Seychelles, right? Gambia is a strategic location, and United Kingdom used to refuel there during their Falkland Wars in Argentina and all that. These are justifications. You just give it a shot. It doesn't mean that they are going to say this. You are not confronting them. You are going to sell a story for the authorities here to at least consider, even if they are going to scale it down from an embassy to a consular section for people to transact their papers there, it will still be much better, because France used to have a consulate there. There was a time it was a school teacher, Alain Capato, who was there. But now France has, I would call it, quote unquote, a de facto embassy in the Gambia. Germany has it. Britain, you remember when President Jammeh said he's pulling Gambia out of the Commonwealth. And then now they call them ambassador. You know, many people in the Gambia may not even know. In diplomatic training, a country within the Commonwealth, you are not called ambassador. You are called a high commissioner. But you see, Senegal, they are called high commissioners for strategic reasons. Now, the British embassy, I'm sure they are called high commissioner again, because I think we, honorable, I think we have been going out of.
Yeah. No, let us just stick on a little bit on that, you know, because I mean, you are, as a diplomat, you know the difference between a high commissioner and an ambassador. Because, you know, if you remember, not long ago, I made a story on that, teaching Gambians, well, telling Gambians the difference between a high commissioner, because a high commissioner is a special representative. You know, like that's why we say, I mean, between us and Senegal, because of the special relationship that exists, Senegal is the only other country apart from the Commonwealth countries where we have high commissioners.
Correct.
Because these are special representatives. I'm happy that you brought this along, so that at least, you know, people will know what the difference is. There is a difference.
Correct.
Unfortunately, not many Gambians know the difference, because I mean, senior officers in the Gambia, even I mean in the foreign mission, you know, for foreign ministry, you hear them saying ambassador, because I heard the other day telling the Indian ambassador to the Gambia. That is wrong. India has a high commissioner, not an ambassador.
That's right, honorable. Well, I read your stories though, because your stories are always educative, and that's one thing. In fact, I was discussing it one time with Ibrahim, because we are still within the sphere of diplomacy, and he was telling me, I told him, a president is never called former in the context of diplomacy. A president is always a president, a general is always a general, an ambassador is always an ambassador. But some Gambians, when you write like Ambassador Isa Bokar, they say, which embassy is he? Which government is he representing? No. The ones you have presented your credentials in your life, and it is within the database, you are an ambassador for life. That's your title. But most of our people, they need to be educated on this thing. But coming back, because all this is part of what we are discussing, coming back to scaling it down, at least they say between two challenges, choose the lesser one. But the Chinese, their proverb is between two evil, choose the lesser one. But here it's not evil, it's a challenge. We are going to choose the lesser challenge.
Okay.
We can sell a story, Ibrahim, we can come, you see, sometimes some of these African countries and some of our diplomats, what they think diplomacy is this person can speak Spanish, can speak French, can speak Arab, he's a diplomat. No. There are two ways. First one is you learn international relations, and that is not enough. Many people who have studied international relations, today they are the worst ambassadors. Practically, you have to do, it's just like journalism, because if you study journalism and have so many degrees, you come and meet DA. He's a consultant, and I know about it. Yourself here, what you know today, did you learn it at the university? No, you interviewed some of the most fearful presidents. Now I don't think any president will intimidate you, Ibrahim. You know? So these are things you learn along the way. That's the strongest, because people like Henry Kissinger and all that. So when we bring back this embassy matter here in the Gambia, we could tell a story, because look, Ibrahim, I don't want to go further. You can go back to DA, because he's got expertise too. Maybe he has something. I'll bring the AGOA thing and why our people also should do more to be recognized and respected. Yeah, I now allow my brother to continue.
Yeah, no, but before DA comes in here, you Ambassador C, you spoke about made very salient points about the probable cause of our potential closure of the Gambian embassy in Banjul. It could be scaling down. It could be, I mean, zoning. The strategy. It could be a strategic reason for the U.S. government. But why Gambia out of several African countries? For me, I think the Gambia has a very unique case for the U.S. embassy to be maintained there, whatever the reasons the U.S. government has. Number one, the roots, Alex Haley. If you look at the history, FDR, who is, I mean, Franklin D. Roosevelt, who is a Liberia, you know very well, revolutionary president, passed by, at least one can say, spent the night in 1945 on his way to Casablanca. This was before the United Nations was formed. He literally confronted Winston Churchill about Banjul, I mean, having potholes and all these things, hellhole.
In Morocco.
Yes. So one can see that at least, if the likes of FDR were alive, he would really sympathize with a case of little Gambia, that, this country, no matter what, let's just leave them, like Dia is saying, there is potential for the country to be left there because it has its, checkered past. So that, for me, that's my take. Dia, you can jump in here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. I think you have already mentioned those connections between the Gambia and the US, historical as well as various other means. Ambassador C has also mentioned the strategic position of the Gambia, on the African continent. I think that's also an important factor that the US should be considering. But again, it all depends on, how our government handles the issue, because they need to be diplomatic involved in this case. I think I read what Pax Torres said on the point. Is it yesterday or today? I cannot remember. About that issue, and he suggested also, why can the Gambia government maybe send somebody to Washington and see how best they can be able to discuss the issue and see whether they can be able to convince the Americans. Like Ambassador C said, it could mean scaling down their activities, not necessarily closing down the embassy altogether. They can leave the visa section in there. That would definitely to be advantage of most Gambians, because as I say, Gambians, will definitely welcome the visa section being remaining in Banjul, so that at least it will save them the trouble of going all the way to Dakar to look for visa, because Gambians will definitely look for American visa, no matter where the embassy is located. They will continue to go, but at what expense? That's the question. So if the government realizes all this and then take on the Americans diplomatically and see how best they can be able to address this issue. But again, as Ambassador C has said, this is just these are just rumors, but there is no confirmation yet that the closure is taking place. But if it were to be confirmed, I think the government needs to do something so that at least it can be averted.
Correct. Just for me to continue here, Mr. Balde, because are you okay with that?
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes. Exactly like Honorable Diejao said, there's a criteria that we can use when pitching, because diplomacy is all about pitching, is all about negotiation, is all about influencing the perspective or the mindset of the country you are enjoying bilateral relationships with. You see, because if it is intended to happen, but you have all these baggage with you, and these negotiations, sometimes, you see, I always say this to the government. No government will ever function by just saying that minister said this, permanent secretary said this, and that's it. No, some of these things, you have to expand it to expertise. Okay? Because those people, you see it as, I am not going to allow anybody to advise me because I know the job. The president may think that this person will take my job. Sometimes that's so myopic. Some people, what they can earn out of consultancy. A minister doesn't get that salary. So you just need to be comfortable. Senegal, that's what they do. Look at the Mimi Tourés. Look at the other people around the new presidency. Look at that lady who was at the United Nations, you know? So we have the criteria. Look, let's go back to AGOA. I used to say this. Had we been very active, because there was a time I was called at a meeting at the US Aid Office when I was the ambassador there. I personally went there. They gave me a list. Green beans, they may need it from Gambia. They even mentioned the cotton ginnery in Basek, because cotton also is needed here. Okay, we have one of the rarest prone tigers in the world, Gambia. This lobster, these things, if you put them in a package and know how to sell it, look at us with the sand we have, you know, the strategic location we have. How many islands do we have in the Gambia? If you were to come to the United States and say, okay, now, I'm just giving an example. Leader X, we want you to come to Gambia and you invest there. We are going to give you James Island so that you can transform it into a tourist hub where helicopters can land. If you start sparking the minds of the people here, they say, oh wow, you bring in all this stuff. Maybe the movie Roots, people don't know. In the Gambia, they think it's a good card, but to be honest with you, it is not. I'm just going to be very honest with you. If you bring that card, you may turn some people off. But there are other things apart from the movie Roots, you know, because Gambia, strategic landing, a crash landing for NASA, it's in history. Like you said, Franklin D. Roosevelt was there, okay? The strategic location of so you don't come to be emotional. You have to be strategic. Because the moment you bring emotions here, the meeting will be about 5 minutes and they will tell you go, because we are going to wait for other countries who will be emotional. This is not about emotions. It's more about reasons and what is rational. Then you bring it, talk to these people. There is a chance that it may not be close, but what, Ibrahim, what you are enumerating, what Honorable was talking about now, all those things that are good, it is not the duty of Washington. It is us who should sell our story. Then they buy the story. Because they have already bought a story. They want to act on that story, but you can still engage them diplomatically and let them, they will listen. Because look, this country, strategically, they are after mutual benefits. Every regime that comes here, you can study the pattern of the way the regime is going. It's not meaning that this particular government is bad, this particular party is bad. No, no, no. Gambia shouldn't enter into that. Let's be strategic about it. What do we have to sell? We have the sand mining. Don't underrate it. We have the limestone in Nyadija. We have this. We have our cattle. We can also, and these are the things they want to hear. We have sea routes. We have river transportation. Your people can come and settle there. In fact, strategically, if you want, even bring, let's sign with the maritime agreement. Jammeh refused it. Maybe they saw all that in their books.
And we have political stability as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Again, yeah, that's what I wanted to jump in here, Ambassador C.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. DA talked about, it was about to talk about political stability. I was going to say that maybe one would have expected the U.S., government to potentially close the embassy in Banjul because of democracy, because of human rights, because of maybe the authoritarian regime that was there. But now with Barrow, I think it is a break from the past. It's completely incredible that with the reforms of 2016 and until now, that if we were to have the embassy closed, it is really a completely U-turn, in my opinion.
Well, Ibrahim, let me come here. You see, this story of somebody is a Democrat and all this stuff, that's not the issue here.
It doesn't matter.
No, because look, there is a lot of criteria that they check. Because let's say, assume I am at the State Department, me. Somebody comes from Banjul. You tell me, we are very democratic. The first point I'll tell you is that why didn't you allow the Gambians in the diaspora to vote? And some of them are US citizens. Some of them are here. Why didn't you allow them to vote? Is that democratic? So let that story not even start flying. Because the point is that I understand where you're coming from. You are right. And as a journalist, the question you ask is not favoring anybody. You are just being critical about it and balancing the facts here. But the point is that the people that intend to do that, they are not after whether you are a Democrat or not. In fact, there is an executive order signed that the current government is going to look into the human rights report, and they have to change it because sometimes they don't even want to interfere into the internal affairs of other countries. That's what this new government is doing. So if you bring that to them, they have so many ways to counterbalance you. And they will say, if you say you are a Democrat, why are you not allowing the Gambians in the diaspora to vote? And why do you say that you are going for a third term? In the United States, we don't do that. What are you going to say? You know? So that's another thing.
Okay. So, yeah. So, still on this, yet a little bit unrelated. When you talk about this, you have to look at the other issue. That is the potential, the purported 3,000 or so Gambians who were set to be deported, and the government of the Gambia was asked to identify those Gambians within 60 days. Otherwise, the next step will be there'll be potential ban. That was scary, but that was more scary than this potential closure, because you talk about travel ban. A lot of people, even right now, things are so people are so jittery that there are certain topics that are gray areas for a lot of people. They are because of fear mongering going on here and there. So now, from what I read, or from what I read, there is a sign of relief, at least for now. Some members of the government or some Gambians believe that now, at least we've now crossed the bridge, literally. That now, fear of being placed in a category of travel ban, well, for now, no longer exists. What is your take on the present dispensation, the newspaper headlines today that Dr. Cisse said, after all, there are only 4 Gambians four individuals who they were asked to identify. So, I mean, this scaremongering is over now?
Well, somehow, yes, because, I mean, what they were talking about, 3,000 Gambians being on the list of people to be deported, I think that was a bit too high. I don't think definitely that number would exist in this country. That you have that number of Gambians in this country who are illegal immigrants, I very much doubt if that is the case. But whatever the case, I think it's a little bit reassuring from what we have heard Ismail Assise say today, that, it involved only 4 individuals that the American government wants the Gambia to identify whether they are actually Gambians or not. Well, that is one aspect of it. But I'm sure, there are a lot of other issues that the government, the U.S. government would want the Gambian government to. That's why we were put on the is it the yellow list or something? Yeah, I think these are issues that the government should take seriously, because I mean, it is one thing for the Americans to want to deport Gambians back to the Gambia, but if the Gambian government is not willing to accept them, then that is going to be a problem, because we've seen what is happening to other nationalities who are being taken to El Salvador. People who are supposed to be taken back to their countries because their countries have refused to accept them, or have got some diplomatic problems with the U.S. government. The U.S. government has decided to go ahead and deport them to El Salvador. We definitely don't want that to happen to Gambians, because that would be catastrophic if Gambians are taken to a country they have no idea about. So I mean, let's hope that our own government will definitely take this matter very, very seriously, and then willing to engage the U.S. government to discuss all these issues and see how best we can come to an amicable solution. If indeed there are Gambians on the list of being deported, I mean, of course they are Gambians, and I see no reason why the Gambia government would not accept its own citizens. That is the case. I mean, if the U.S. government don't want them here, I mean, they have got their own country, and that is the Gambia. The Gambia government should be willing to accept them. Of course, I understand, some of the issues that the government also is, talking about, because, we all know that Gambian documents are very, very cheap to come by. They're very, very easy to come by. I'm sure there are among maybe, if it is true that there are 3,000 people identified to be deported to Gambia, I am almost quite certain that a good chunk of that list may not even be born Gambian, but people who obtain Gambian citizen through the Gambian citizen or Gambian documents through the back door. That is a possibility. And, it's up to the, but again, has the Gambia any right to reject those people who have Gambian documents? Because, it is maybe carelessness on the part of the, the Gambian authorities that they they got hold of our documents. So we cannot reject them. I don't think it would be a good excuse to reject them because they are not Gambians. But anyway, all these things are diplomatic issues. I'm sure Ambassador C would be in a better position to actually discuss this issue and see how we can go around them.
So
yeah, thank you very much, Honorable.
Ambassador C, what is your take? Now the cloudy skies have cleared.
Ibrahim, why I'm laughing is that you yourself, you know that you are struggling to transform this question into giving hope to people, but you internally, you know that you cannot do it. I'm just teasing you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm just teasing you because you are saying that the cloud is clear, there is a heaving a sigh of relief. Do not heave a sigh of relief, and let me be quiet. It may not be even pyroclastic cloud from the volcano instead. So don't let nobody sit there and think that, look, we have heard that it's only 4 people that's one version. We are talking about 2 governments, and we are talking about the most powerful government versus one of the smallest, in terms of military and economy, weakest governments in the world. So when I hear this version, and then I am yet to hear from the one who said, we have 3,000 of your national, I will tread with cautious optimism. Cautious optimism. Okay? Because the thing is, some of us, like they say, how to analyze thought is past experience, balanced out with subsequent mental operation. I have done these things myself. In France, exactly as Honorable said, the onus lies on our authorities back home to make sure that the disrespected Gambian passport is restored within the spare respect. Okay? Like I said the last time, I said, I'm praying to God that none of those people, in fact, has a diplomatic passport. I'm praying. Because before, whether it is France, whether it is US, whether it is any country, they don't care whether this person's passport is valid, is given to them. As long as it's a Gambian passport, legally, that's what they base on and say it is your national. You have to take them home. This is exactly what happens in these embassies, whether they deny it or not. Some of us have done it. Some of us have been in it when we were very, very young. So I know what I'm talking about. In France or in Germany or in Switzerland, most of the Gambians, the moment you are caught with a Gambian passport, that's it, because that is the identity to show that you are identifying with Gambia, period. So he said there are 4 people. I cannot deny him. I don't know who he spoke to and what was said. But like I said, Zoom meetings are here. Right now, what we are doing, we are taking care of things without seeing each other. It could happen to identify people. But what I want to say is that I like using this analogy. There is a difference between an extinct volcano and a dormant volcano and an active volcano. This trend I'm seeing is a dormant volcano. It's not an extinct one. I'm serious. If anybody wants to go by that lullaby, you want to go by that
at any time.
Huh?
You literally saying that the volcano can erupt at any time.
Yeah, because the thing is that you are dealing with a government that has more machines than you do, that has more sophisticated intelligence that you do. Okay? You are dealing with a government that is actively looking at the Gambia for every other reason, not only for the current government. Recently, we have heard the court case of a former jungler. That shows you that this government is actively zooming on Gambia for whatever reason. So what our look, the identification of Gambians going, sometimes I see that happening in the Gambia so many times, these publicity tests, headlines here and there, that cannot change Washington. That cannot convince Washington. What Honorable said is the answer. You have to engage the people. You have to be on the ground, or you have to talk to them practically to show what you are doing is right. Because they are saying only 4 people were to be identified. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not saying it is not true, but I will use Reagan's doctrine here. Trust, but verify. I trust what he said, but I will verify. And I know how to verify. Inshallah.
So yeah, so now where do we go from here? DA, what is your own take?
Well, I think the only solution is diplomacy. The Gambia government has to be diplomatically active, engage the U.S. government, and that is, if it is true that actually their intention is to close down the embassy. I think they shouldn't wait until, the embassy is closed down before they would take the diplomatic route, and do something about it. I think this is the very time that they should definitely engage the U.S. government and, to verify that that is their intention, and then to see how best they can be able to, go on the diplomatic offensive and, try to get them to realize that the U.S. embassy in Banjul is definitely very much needed in the Gambia by Gambians as well as other nationals, throughout. I think it's important. The governments should not just sit and wait until it happens. They should do something about it. That's the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Ambassador C, what is your take or final take on this issue? Why Gambia?
Yes.
Two cases yet related somewhat, but different in 2 aspects. Potential closure and also the mass, deportation, potential deportation. That's 3,000. When I heard about it, actually, like DA said, I was wondering, and I never thought, even Germany or Europe, where you have larger concentration of Gambians, diaspora, I don't think they have that such number to be identified or to be potential deported. So why Gambia?
Well, what I threw the dice from the analysis of diplomacy, the dice gave me 3. 1 is cautious optimism. 2 is almost what Honorable said. He said diplomatic offensive. Diplomatically, people call it charm offensive. You charm offensive, you go. The 3rd one is preventive diplomacy. He has already said it. These are the 3 I would recommend. Preventive diplomacy, cautious optimism, and charm offensive. Yeah, you have to be charming. You have to be convincing. You don't have to say that, oh, I can't do it because they would not even listen to me, because then you will be controlled by low self-esteem and inferiority complex. That cannot function in diplomacy. Whoever you meet, dress well, speak well, be dignified, don't be proud, don't be arrogant, and then come, because if you are arrogant before people who are more powerful than any country in the world, then you are wasting your time. But if you come there, you sit down and present your case. This is, let's say, for example, as they interview people when you are applying for a job, why do you think you are the most qualified for this job? You prepare yourself. You meet the officers at the State Department, the desk officer first, and then maybe the undersecretary, then the Secretary of State before you go to the National Security Advisor to the President. Or you do not even need to go to the President for this. No, because they will recommend and convince him. Then you talk to them and tell them, look, economically, Gambia has this. Strategically, maritime agreement, we have this. Okay? And then as far as AGOA is concerned, we have one of the best prawn tigers. We can grow the green beans. We can revive the cotton ginnery in Basek and give them different lists. We have this. Okay? We want you to consider that first. And our strategic location, Gambia has a crash landing site, which we can still revive. It was moved to Seychelles Island because the former regime was not friendly to the US. We know that the former regime never wanted to sign a maritime peace agreement with you. We can sign it because they will need it, because that's important for America also. But you have to understand the subject matter you're talking about. I am pretty sure that you bring those things before them with respect, with discipline, they will reconsider. At least tell them now, look, please, because you cannot force them. Reconsider scaling it down, even if you are going to close the embassy, but leave the consular section there so that our people will not be traveling, because it's very difficult to cross this here and there and stuff like that. Because when you come to the USA, when I was ambassador, we were invited there. The USA discussions were being held, and one of we also were invited at the FDA. I think it was like something related to airlines. We discussed open skies agreements with Gambia, because at that time Gambia's airports were declared not to be safe. But I spoke to a point where the open skies agreements were respected. That was the time of the lady now is a magistrate back home, Aissatou Jallow, and then Maimuna Tal, very active team at that time at the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. Okay, they ended up respecting it, and that's why the former IGP Ibu Njai went and found me in Taiwan, and he said they needed equipment at the airport. They got 30 computers, 30 printers. He's still alive. He's at Carnival. They can ask him what I'm talking about. The airport was revived. And then it was taken out of the list of risky airports. So it is the duty of the government. Like you are suggesting here, the Americans would consider about Franklin D. Roosevelt and all this, but it's not their duty. It's not the duty of the US government to talk for Gambia. They can talk for themselves, but Gambia has to sell a story, even if it is about Americans or what they agreed with America before, and bring it and say, okay, we are ready to do this with you. These governments are only after strategic location, strategic interest, economic interest, and Gambia has that. But who is selling the story, and how are you selling it? This is not about coming and sitting on a leather chair, swinging left, right, and center, acting like a big diplomat, when actually this is where diplomacy is called. This is the time of real diplomacy, when challenges are present. It is not difficult to be a diplomat for President Barrow because he is not aggressive. He is not fighting any country, isn't it? So if you are representing him, you don't have issues with him being a cantankerous leader, a leader who is insulting the West. He is not doing that, isn't it? So now the time of the diplomacy is here. This is where we know diplomacy is not about, like the late Vice President, may Allah have mercy on him, said, diplomacy is not about flying in and out of the Gambia, attending every cocktail meeting. Cocktail ambassadors, cocktail ministers of foreign affairs think they are diplomats. Diplomacy is not about style. It's about substance. The form is there for presentability. The substance is there for you to sell your country and bring benefits back home. Now the chance is here. This is tough. That's where you know who a diplomat is. When things are very tough, you come to the State Department, sell your country story. They will listen to you, they will respect you, because that's what they want to hear. That's all I have to say for now, sir.
DA, what do you have to say as we wrap up this program?
Yeah, I think it's a question of just re-emphasizing what we've already, mentioned here. It's diplomacy. Everything has to be, on the diplomatic, put on the table and discussed. Convince the Americans that they need the Gambia just as the Gambia needs them. So it's a question of. It's not a question of one-sided thing. It's not a question of that. It's only the Gambians that need the US. Yeah. Convince them that there are a lot of important things that the US can also achieve from the Gambia. Correct. In a diplomatic way, politically, or any other way, is necessary. If you convince them, I'm sure they would be able to understand. And then, from there, you can be able to, reach an agreement that, it is going to be beneficial. Keeping the embassy in Banjul is going to be beneficial to both countries and the peoples of the two countries as well.
Sorry, just to add something here, dear. Thank you very much. Right now we have the Peace Corps office there. And then we have the AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce. In fact, The founders of that is Mr. Baksture, the one who wrote the story. Okay, the strategic approach, all these things are important because the American Chamber of Commerce in the Gambia is very active. They are working hard to see that people in Florida and anywhere else, and we will be coming. And we all know that some of the big business people, in fact, are members of the Republican Party. So it's the duty of the Gambia to sell the story, explain themselves diplomatically with respect. They will listen to them. But if you just sit there and start telling people that, oh, Jammeh was not a Democrat and this man is a Democrat, well, like I said, they will tell you, okay, if you are a Democrat, why didn't you allow your people in the United States to vote? Why?
Yeah.
What will you answer? And then they will turn around and say, okay, we have understood that facts have stated, we saw you on television, and then you said you are going to run for a third term. Will a Democrat do that? So that's not a good way to sell the story, though. It's have to be practical. And like Honorable said, mutual benefits. Diplomacy is two things, Mr. Balde, reciprocity and interest. That's it. That highway doesn't have 3 lanes, you know? No, it's only 2 lanes. Reciprocity, interest, period. Thank you.
Well, reciprocity and interest, that does it for this maiden edition of our program called Global Matters. Join us next week for another interesting topic. Thanks. That was Ambassador Esa Bogasi and veteran journalist D.A. Jao, former Minister of Information and also media consultant. Thank you for watching. Thank you.
Thank you. So you have stopped recording?
The suggestion you made about the name of the program, I think it's a much
you are
better.
recording again, Ibrahim.
No, is it?
I stopped.